like on my way to Scotland, I circuitously went through Finland and Sweden and Norway to ask them, why are you so goddamn happy? What, like,
Are
why are
they?
you people so, they think they are. But like there's a secret I'm going to give you. I looked into this. Like the Finns always top the charts in terms of global happiness, but the question that they ask is just, can you imagine being much happier? And the Finns can't.
Mm.
And I looked at that and was like, well, my fantasies are absolutely lurid. Like if you were to ask me, could you be happier than you are now? Like I have daydreams involving moon bases and fembots. I'm pretty happy, but I could be a lot happier. So I think it's possible the Finns just aren't very imaginative.
Isn't
But
this the culture that, like, I think Bill Burr had a bit about it where they just believe nothing happens when you die? Like, he was talking about, I believe it's Scandinavia where they're like, "There nothing. It's more terrifying than anything," but maybe
yeah,
that has something to do with it. Like,
eh,
they lack imagination because they don't have an
yeah,
afterlife or they don't have multiple lives or reincarnation. It's just nothing.
it could well be. The impression I got was that at least in Finland, they're all nominally Catholic, or excuse me, nominally Lutheran. Like they go to Lutheran
Mhm.
like once a year to get it out of their system, and then they don't think about it the other 364 days. But that's the main thing I do is the political orphanage. And then for coming up on a year now, I moved to Washington D.C. and I do funny videos for Reason TV. So I am
Mhm.
a political satirist in video form over at Reason. Those are the two main things I do. Then on Wednesdays, I do a show called We're Not Wrong, where I play like armchair pundit. So I'm very busy with podcasting and funny videos.
Yeah, I understand. What do you think about DC now that the troops have been deployed?
I managed to avoid that. I got out before the
Oh, you were
national
gone.
yeah, the National Guard was called in, so we'll see if they let me back in. I go back and forth on DC, Bridget. I've lived there. This is my third time to live in DC. It is a
Mhm.
really smart city. I think probably pound for pound, it's the smartest city in America. But
Really?
it's really highly educated, intelligent, but it's one very
Smarter than New
specific
York?
kind of smart.
Yeah.
It's one very specific. It's like it's an entire city populated by former student council presidents. So they're all very clever,
Mhm.
but they're all coming out of that one specific vertical. And I've kind of arrived at the conclusion no city in America should be more than 10% student council president. That should be the maximum. Like you should come into the city and they go, did you hold office in high school? And there's a quota. And if they exceed that, you just can't enter the city.
It but those people are just good at climate. It's very much a climber city. That was the feeling I got. And not that all cities aren't in one degree or another, but it seems like in that city everyone's climbing the same ladder. So it's very concentrated climbing. It's not
Yes,
like
it
climbing the literary ladder, climbing the media, climbing acting or the music ladder where there's just more diversity of ladders to climb in the bigger cities. DC, it's
yeah.
just one
It's
ladder.
it's a company town, which I think is to its great detriment. Because like New York, all sorts of ladders. Like when I lived in New
Yep,
York, I was doing comedy, but like if you really wanted to get into Hasidic kite flying, you can go do that. There's all
totally.
sorts of you want to get into finance. I don't have the math skills for that, but if you want to, you can do that. Yeah, DC, it's all in government, and yeah, there is a ladder climbing element. It seems to me to be better than when I was there in my 20s. When I was there in my 20s, every party I went to, the very first question people ask you is, who do you work for? And it
Mm,
it kind of rubbed like a lot of those people were probably just making conversation, to be fair, but there were a fair amount of people that you could see were just assessing you for like how important are you? How much can you help me? And I hate that shit. So my new thing is I will ask people like first question at a party, what do you think about ghosts? And it's my attempt to just derail all of that immediately. Like I if you really enjoy your job, I would love to talk to you about your job because I like talking to people about things they're excited by. But if you're just doing a job, I don't really want to talk about your job either. I would like to hear what you think about ghosts. I find that those conversations are just summarily better than, I work at a shadowy NGO. I can't really talk about it, but I know the right people.
yeah. Do you love, working for Reason?
Yeah,
Seems
reason's
right up
great.
your yeah, right up your
Reason's
alley.
super fun. The people are great. They're really fun. I am an independent, but I broadly align with Reason. I share a lot of those political orientations, and also they're like stupidly casual in a way that I do not think I could get away with now if I ever went back to work for corporate America. Like,
Right.
they have cocktail parties at the office. I don't say a lot of sexist shit, but I think I could make a joke and probably be okay. Like, I don't think HR would come in on me. Like, there's a lot of latitude that I have, and
Yeah.
they've always been super relaxed. Where prior to COVID, prior to people working remote in mass, it was already the kind of place where your boss would call you and go, I hate to be a dick, but can you come into the office on Thursday sometime between noon and 3? And then you'd go, yeah, I'll okay. So like that's the default position for Reason. It's a really nice place. I like working with them.
It's interesting to me because they don't seem stressed. Like, the Reason doesn't have this kind of desperate feeling I get from so many other media outlets.
Yeah.
There's a and I say this with all love, like, there's a little bit of a trust fund baby vibe where they just don't seem concerned with having to necessarily prove to their investors that they're making money, or I don't know how they get away with that. I don't know how they do it. If it's just an act or if they truly just have people who love them and believe in their mission, and they have people, like a you don't need a huge audience. You really just need kind of a rabid audience to manage to stay alive in this crazy ecosystem.
And I don't even have that. I'm like the bacteria along a geyser flap at the bottom of the ocean. I'm this weird creature that's able to persist, and I shouldn't, but I have like an okay sized tepid audience that likes me okay, and I'm able to do it. Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. I don't know what the pie chart is with Reason of donor versus subscription versus advertising,
Right.
but there's
Right,
certainly
right.
a big donor component. The other bit we should point out is like, psilocybin. Like they're I think if you have people that are just like, I don't know, mushrooms seem pretty good, they're gonna learn to relax over time. And Reason has a lot of that. On
Yeah,
on
it's
on
exa
on your end, Bridget, what surprised you about Texas? Because you've now been out there 2, 3 years from California.
Uh-huh, 2 years. Yep, going on 2.5. What surprised me about Texas? I Texas has its own very strong identity, which I always knew about Texas. It's not like I'd never been here, but it's very, um yeah, it's like Texas strong is a thing without needing to be a reason to be Texas strong, It's just like
Yeah,
it feels like the overall vibe of Texas is like Texas strong. I think,
yeah,
um, I'm surprised at how there's I'm surprised at how kind of moderate it is too. I think I expected it to be a little bit more red,
hmm
but it's actually quite purple. I mean, Austin's very purple, maybe more
hmm
obviously more blue, but I think purple surrounding and then red as you get further away from the cities. And that's just Texas in general.
yeah,
I think too, just I think the most surprising thing to me, coming from Minnesota, where I went to high school in a suburb and it was white and that was it. The suburbs in Texas are a lot more diverse than they are. I did not expect that at all. I'm pleasantly surprised by it, but where I am, a lot of the people who got kind of kicked out of Austin during the gentrification and everybody getting kind of bought out of their old houses and whatnot, they're now living in suburbs outside of Austin, so there's kind of a vibrant life that feels a little bit more like a city out in the suburbs than sometimes when I go into the city of Austin, which feels very, gentrified now from when I used to come here
yeah,
20
yeah,
years ago. And then also the, like, tech bro influence is a lot more dominant than it was because I first started coming here when it was, like, 2001. So, the tech bro influence in Austin is undeniable. It's weird. It
yeah.
is
It
still
like
weird. It's still like a very weird city that prides itself on being weird, and I still like you said, I the thing about cities or any really anywhere, and I'm sure this is true in DC, you stumble into we were looking for studio space, and then we ended up looking at all of these art studios, and there's so many art I'm like, "Wow, people still make fine art," like, they're still painting in this economy? How are we doing this? But
Yeah.
it was a huge studio with they had an open house, and it was all these photographers and artists, and I was like, "Oh, there's a whole art scene here." Now I couldn't
Yeah,
get a
it's I
studio here because 'cause they'd probably boycott me, but lovely to know that it
it's
exists.
I love Austin. Austin's a great city. Like I moved there from New York, and it suited me perfectly. Like, me being from Oklahoma, I like Middle America very much. I like the
Me too.
pace. I like the friendliness and the neighborliness. That's my default setting. I like the artsy part of Brooklyn. So you kind of like Austin to me, sort of Brooklyn plus cowboy hats, and I like
Yeah,
that. And it's also like in terms of diversity, one of the things that struck me moving there from New York was it is a lot more politically diverse than
totally.
most of the circles I traveled in New York. So like San Francisco back in 2020 voted like 99% Democrat. Like I looked at like at least 97% Democrat, whereas Austin voted like 75% Democrat. So it was an overwhelming majority, but one out of four people in that city voted for Republicans or libertarians or independents, probably Republicans. And I find that the result is that people are just a little bit nicer about politics because they don't know who's in the room. And I
Totally.
want that. I don't like it when people, I think this is actually what are your observations, when people just stand up and talk about politics as if they're giving a speech to a room full of people that already agree with them. I find it obnoxious, and I
Yeah,
find that when people do that, they inevitably don't like me. Whereas in Austin, I find that they're very progressive, they're very Democrat, but they're not thinking about it on a daily basis up until the election, which is the society that I want to live in. I don't want to think about politics on a daily basis. So I really liked Austin. I thought it was great in that capacity.